Week 2. Here we are in our homeroom classroom. I'm going to scroll down to week 2, pre-writing and planning. Hopefully everyone can access this. And here's our lecture. So this week we're focusing on pre-writing, planning your essay, and developing ultimately a thesis statement. Let's go ahead and get started with skill set 3, which is the skill set where we're focusing on brainstorming. So brainstorming is an important step to get past that first difficulty of not really knowing what to write about. So your teacher gives you a topic, it's happiness in this case, and you kind of don't know where to go from there. So there are a few methods to brainstorm and get to your next step. One of them is free writing. So free writing is something that we practiced last week, and hopefully all of you turned in your free writing in your skill set. I think it was 2. There are some other options here. There's listing and columning, word association, clustering or mind mapping or webbing. There are a few different options. Let's take a look at pre-writing strategies. Another one is reporter's questions. So let's just go through this list and take a look. You'll remember that free writing is essentially stream of consciousness. You set a timer, you don't let anything interrupt you, you just keep writing, and hopefully you go back through your free writing and you find some ideas, something that you're really interested in, and you kind of want to pick up from that place. So after you do a free write, you go through and you highlight what's most interesting to you. Listing is a little bit even less formal than free writing. It's also stream of consciousness, but you just make a list. You don't have to write complete sentences. You don't even have to write from left to right. You can just itemize down or in whatever manner or way you want. You don't want to censor yourself. You basically just want to make associations. Word associations is similar to listing. If you start with something like, my dog makes me happy, then what do you associate with your dog? Is it companionship? And then what word do you associate with companionship? So maybe it's comfortable, or maybe it's something that's consistent, something that's always there. And hopefully you really get to the root of what that thing is that's making you happy. It's not just your dog, but it's something about your dog. So maybe it's that consistency, maybe it's loyalty. And that's what you're looking for, and that's what really makes you happy. So word association can be helpful. Reporters' questions are basically just who, what, when, where, why, and how. And answering these questions can sometimes get you pretty deep pretty quickly. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to brainstorm so that you're getting to the root of whatever your topic is. And you discover what you're interested in. You discover what makes that spark in you. Clustering is also called mind mapping or webbing. You start with a central idea, and then you kind of web out from there. So your innermost circle or central idea is your main topic. You might want to start with happiness, or I don't know, you might want to start with cookies or your dog. And then you basically follow the same word association pattern, and you web off into different directions. Let's go back. Let's see. Let's go here. Sometimes bouncing off ideas off of a friend really helps. You want to make sure that you suspend your judgment. You can learn about the topic. Use Google. I'm always a fan of that. You want to start with something obvious and keep asking why or what if. So if your dog makes you happy, ask why and try and answer that question. Try and throw in a different contingency or scenario. So what if you didn't have your dog? What would you feel? What would you do? What would you look for happiness in that case? What would take that place? So if you keep asking why or what if or how, or use those reporter's questions, you may get to some pretty profound place. Like I said, look through your skill set 2, free write, and just see if you make any observations. What kind of insights did you have? Something that I'd like you all to do is to read My Life as a Dog on page 180 of the Norton Field Guide textbook that I have in the left-hand list in your homeroom classroom. Read through the essay by Jonathan Safran Foer. It's about his dog, and try and figure out how he got his topic for his essay. As you read through it, look for his insight. Look for the one thing that makes Jonathan Safran Foer happy. What is it about his dog that makes him happy? What does he observe? And what kind of insights does he get to? And we'll talk about insight in the next video. So there are some questions that you can ask yourself about that essay. Ask yourself what one thing makes you happy. So these methods of brainstorming are to get ideas flowing. Here's a little example. I first just made a list of what makes me happy. So teaching makes me happy, horseback riding, movies, reading, making food with friends, and on and on. Let's see, somewhere in here I have traveling. Here it is. So I just picked up on that one because I thought it was interesting, I guess. And I asked the next question, why does traveling make me happy? And I made another list. I see something new. I'm reminded of history. I feel out of my element. I gain a new perspective. So I kind of latched onto that idea. Well, what does that mean? And how far can I go with that? So I asked why, right? The same reporter question. Why gaining a new perspective seems to be really important. And I try and answer that question. So this is what's called columning. I just keep listing side by side until I get to some insightful, profound idea. So as you can see, I've started to get an idea of how to focus my essay on happiness. It's going to have something to do with gaining a new perspective and why that's important to me and how that makes me happy. Next, I might Google something like gaining a new perspective, just to see what others have said about it, or the importance of traveling, and that'll help me gain and understand the scope of the topic. So let's go back to the internet. And as you can see, I've used Google Scholar and Googled gain a new perspective, just to see what sort of articles are written on it. Here's getting a new perspective on learning and innovation. Let's see. New perspectives seem to be leading towards various innovations. So research on women business owners, understanding cultural differences, appreciating diversity. There's some psychology essays, it looks like, in the Psychological Review. So this question is answered through my Google search through a lot of different genres, right? I also Googled the importance of traveling. And I didn't use Google Scholar for this, but I did notice that there are a lot of newspaper articles, including the Huffington Post. I clicked on that one just to see what this writer had to say. So she says she's been traveling her whole life. She believes there are many important aspects to traveling. Traveling can develop a person's character. You aren't enclosed in your bubble. You get outside of your comfort zone. And it's something you can't learn in a classroom. So 3 reasons to travel. So these might be 3 things that make me happy if I start to explore them. She gives a concrete example here. She says, for example, poverty is not something I had been exposed to living in Australia. The most I'd see is a homeless person in the city, busking with a guitar. I hadn't been really exposed to it until I was on a trip in Southeast Eastern Europe in 2010, and we were in Sarajevo, Bosnia. So she has a pretty concrete example, and she describes that example of how she was pushed out of her comfort zone. She got to see something new. She gained a new perspective on what poverty is or what poverty can be, and that fulfilled her in some way. It helps her develop personally. And you might be interested in this, you might not. You can read through it if you like. So these are just some ways that you can start to brainstorm about your topic. In order to develop a main idea for your essay 1, you're going to have to brainstorm a little bit. And skill set 3 asks you to choose one of these brainstorming methods. And please don't do free writing. You've already done that one. So choose something new. And hopefully you'll have an idea of what type of brainstorming works best for you and you can employ it in the future. Okay, thank you very much, and I'll meet you in the next video.